Call the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District regular meeting to order. And first thing is roll call.
All right, Manager Lowe. I hear you, I see you're talking, but I don't hear you. I can't hear you.
His hand is raised. We'll
Okay.
consider him here.
All right, Manager Schmaltz,
Here.
Manager Baki,
I am here.
Manager Taves. President Anderson.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. Let's proceed. The next is setting of the meeting agenda. I know that we have. at
I'm
least
here.
one-
I'm here. I just couldn't get it clicked in.
All right, good. Did you get that?
Yep.
Manager Taves is here as well. All right, we have, at least one item I know is going to be added to the agenda. Would you like to talk about that? Mike, we're gonna add EOR. Mhm.
That those are right, Berta Hanson, I believe, is online here. If we could just bring her into the early part of the meeting, let's see if I. Ann, I see you there, is,
I'm admitting Britta now.
okay. All right, so managers, I sent out, and then my apologies for the delay in getting that distributed, but it was, a proposal and a cover memo from EOR on the architect for, putting together a kind of, or rendering. For a future office space, and she's just gonna go through the memo, there's gonna be no action in later time. What's proposed is to have a workshop to cover the topic.
And do we have that memo? Can we pull it up tonight as we talk about it?
Correct, it's been distributed, and then I just printed you a copy there too, and
Okay.
some more.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll add that EOR memo to, new business, I think, as appropriate, or should we put it as first thing on old business?
Like new business would be.
All right, well, let's put that ahead of the Bush Foundation so that Britta can leave as soon as she's done, as she wishes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
And then I'd like to suggest we add, 3 minutes on discussing a couple sheets that are on the, public meeting that's coming up. And also talk about, the timing and what we wanna send out. If we wanna send out anything ahead of time or not.
Mhm.
There's some controversy about that, so I think that needs to be cleaned up a little bit.
okay,
So there's alignment on what we wanna do as a board.
okay. So let's put that under old business.
Okay.
And we'll make that D. And that is concerning the budget, correct?
Right. More the public meeting in Lundy, I think.
Well, okay. But still the budget.
But, yeah, well, it's fine.
All right, so that will be D. Anything else? All right.
Can I move to,
Thank you.
make a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
Is there a second? I'll second it. All right, roll call, please.
All right, Manager Lowe,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. All right, the agenda has been set. Let's move on to number 3, the consent agenda. Now, these items can be taken separately or all together. If there are no changes or edits.
I will note that special board minutes from July 28th were not available for stuff.
So those will come off. Okay, so we have 3 to deal with, July 10th, 14th, and 24th. Any changes or recommendations? All right, well, without objection, I will move the consent agenda approved. No objections? All right, motion carries. 6:33 PM, 4 o'clock, or excuse me, number 4 is a public open forum. Do we have any public?
No.
Okay. then we can just skip over that. There's no public on here in person or on video. Number 5, advisory committee updates.
Madam President, managers, Aiden Reed is here to present that.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, managers. In the board packet, you'll see the meeting notes of the Citizens Advisory Committee from this last month. Kind of a short update as we did not have a formal meeting. We had 2 informal meetings. We had a small budget workshop at the beginning of the month, and then we had a number of committee members participate in subsequent board budget workshop, or I should say board meetings. And then we also had our CAC host the Bone Lake Shoreline Pontoon Tour later this month. So both events were a success. We did have a couple managers present for the pontoon shoreline tour. It was a good success and lots of great feedback from both the committee members and members of the Bone Lake Association that were in attendance. Any questions about CAC activities for the month?
Okay. Any questions of Aiden? No? All right, let's move along. The next item is the new business, and that's the EOR discussion with Bretta. So let's introduce Bretta, if you would, Mr. Administrator. Mr. Kenny?
Madam President, managers, so the district has been, as we know, been talking about facility, trying to find something for quite some number of years. I think you're 11 now here in this temporary spot of the old hair salon. So the board had engaged UR to assist the district with putting out an RFP. And then over the summer in July, district staff and UR conducted the interviews, and so just wanted to then present this here, and then as suggested, propose that we would have a follow-on workshop with the board to review the materials, and then start on the process for well, I guess it would be approve the proposal, get a contract in place, and then commence a process for doing some board engagement. And add on to this is gonna be this additional consulting services with our past consultant, Yanni, given his knowledge of from the strategic planning perspective. So that's an optional piece, but Britta, I think I'll let you then kind of go through some of the details of what the proposal calls for.
Sure. Thank you. Hello, Madam President, Board of Managers. The last time I was with you to discuss this topic was on April 10th. At that time, EOR presented our research and interviews with other watershed districts about their facilities. And the board approved a scope of work for EOR to solicit proposals from architecture firms for pre-planning services related to a potential future district-owned facility for Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. So after that time, EOR prepared an RFP, which we distributed to 7 firms that we knew to be qualified to do the work outlined in the request for proposals. And the request for proposals detailed the work that we would like the architect to complete in 4 phases. Phase 1 included a pre-design report. This is a typical phase that happens with facility planning. Does not include design, but kind of starts at the beginning, interviewing all of the stakeholders and developing a report that outlines a proposed building or site program, characteristics of site selection, a fit diagram for a potential facility, and then outlines potential costs associated with the facility of the size that is proposed. In addition, in phase 2, we asked the architect to develop a site selection matrix to help the watershed district identify potential sites that would be a good fit for a future facility, whether they have a building on them already or not. And the envisioned product for that is a spreadsheet from which prospective properties can be evaluated and compared and contrasted as they become available. Finally, or actually, the third out of 4 phases is a pre-concept rendering. This is a visual rendering that can be used in communication with the public and other interested parties to describe visually what the intent of the facility is and what kind of landscape setting it's in and the approximate size that it will be. And it is intended to be used for community engagement and uniting stakeholders and as a funding tool. And then finally, phase 4 of the architect's work would be to bring that to the board for review and presentation and final refinement of that design report, the matrix, and the visual rendering. And I should add that the pre-design report phase does include interviews and extended meetings between the architect and the board managers, as well as other stakeholders that the board identifies that should be interviewed in preparing that report. So we, as I said, we distributed this RFP to 7 pre-qualified firms. 5 of those firms responded with a proposal, including answers to questions that we had put to them in the RFP, as well as a fee for their outline services. And after reviewing all of the 5 proposals, EOR and Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District staff agreed to interview 3 firms, and those firms were Rohrschmidt Architecture, U+B Architecture, and Snow Krylik Architects. And we did that in July. And of the review committee, we unanimously agreed that Snow Krylik Architects was well suited to the work at hand and well qualified. And one key thing to note about their team is that they are the lead architect on their proposed team is also the architect who led the design and construction of the Capital Region Watershed District facility project that EOR was a part of about 5 years ago. And excuse me.
Britta, if I could just interrupt for a minute here. Which architect firm?
Snow Krylik.
Okay, that's second to the last one. Oh, good. Wonderful, thank you.
Sure.
And then we also solicited a proposal from Yanni, who has previous facilitation experience with the board. And the idea was to have him participate with the architects in the extended workshops with the board managers during the pre-design report phase of the project.
All right, any questions so far?
President Anderson.
Go ahead, Manager Plotky.
Yes, the term district owned was mentioned, and I also read it in the report. Does that mean we're only limited to owning this option? I mean, we've explored other possibilities of leasing again, but I just need some clarification on what we mean by district owned, if that limits us.
Go ahead.
I believe that's, oh, go ahead.
Well, Manager Baki, I think it was a matter of, yes, I guess maybe rather than district owned, but rather district designed and focused and we could proceed or pursue the lease option. That we would be looking to be the lead on the architectural design to align with the needs of the district. Both now and in what we anticipate, into the next, decade or so. And hence the interest in having Yanni, who just assisted with the strategic planning process.
And what role would he play? Again?
In the facilitating, the board, because there's quite a few options that
Mhm.
would exist with respect to.
Okay, I'm just confused about that. I thought we wanted EOR to run this for us, to lead this project for us. And I don't understand why we would need Yanni. So if you can enlighten me on that, that would be helpful.
I think really just, I guess it was largely my suggestion, I'll own this. That the architects will look to get direction from the board, and having been through a similar process. It could take some time, and there's a lot of decisions that need to be made, not unlike our strategic planning process. And Yanni had done such an excellent job, so we were looking at the architects through the lens mostly through their capacity or their skill in the design work. Obviously, some of it is going to be facilitation, but again, it's an add-on. It's not a requirement by any means.
Well, I think this is a very important point, though, that we need to clarify sooner rather than later. My understanding was that we were going to engage our engineering firm to lead this project for us, because they've done it before. They're familiar with the local architects, and they can direct us on what the next steps are and whatever else the board input is, wherever the board input is needed. And I'm much more comfortable with that than I am with having Yanni only through the television, basically,
Sure.
handle that for us, because it's gonna be long. There might be times when we need them more rapidly, then we can arrange meetings for Yanni. So I just wanted to clarify that. I believed at the time that we were making a decision to use EOR to manage this project for us, and that includes all of the interactions with us, so.
Madam President, I think it still would be the case that EOR would be managing the
Mhm.
process. It just, and Britta, you can, I guess, speak to the level of facilitation or support that you and the team could bring. Again, I just thought Yanni had done an excellent job moving us along and getting us through the
Mhm.
timeline, so. But I'm sure Britta and the remaining EOR staff are equally qualified to assist not only with the process, but also doing the engagement.
Mhm. Well, again, I think that EOR is much more familiar with this area than Yanni would be. And I think we're gonna have a better outcome if we use people that we know and trust and have actually interacted with architects and building, even in our own area, watersheds. They mentioned a few of them in that opening statement. So I'm personally adamant that, in my opinion, we should stay with the people we know.
And hence why we're having the discussion.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
exactly right, and that's my position. Yes.
Can I ask a
And
question?
mhm.
Britta, how many office buildings has EOR worked on with architects? And have you been involved with most of those or some of them?
Yeah, the numbers in the dozens, and I've been involved in a lot of them.
So how many of those did you have an outside facilitator assist in aligning the board to what has to be done versus what you've done on your own?
Honestly, that's not necessarily a frequent thing, although we are not always a part of the pre-planning phase. And it is my understanding that, so I had solicited a proposal from Yanni for just facilitation at meetings, at some meetings with the board managers in order to help with decision-making in the vision, but regardless if he is involved or not, EOR would be the number one partner of the watershed district and working directly with the watershed district and the architect to bring them together and move the process along from beginning to end and ensure that a good product is developed that meets the needs of the watershed district. So Yanni's services are just for meeting facilitation, and as Mr. Kinney noted, totally optional to our contract and the architect's contract.
So that means that you would facilitate the meeting though for us, working with the board, is that correct then? I'm just trying to understand. If we don't have Yanni there, you pick up that responsibility then, is that correct, or do we have to manage that ourselves?
No, EOR would serve as that lead facilitator with a lot of cooperation from the architecture team.
Okay. Thank you.
Others? Comments?
President Anderson, I tend to agree with you on your assessment. I think it's just another layer to add Yanni in the process. I think we will be making decisions that will be much more concrete, not as much as we did with the strategic planning. So I would count on EOR to kind of lead us through this process and give us options which we can clearly understand and make decisions about. So I agree with you.
Thank you. Manager Taves, anything from you?
I tend to agree. Nothing against Yanni and his work, but I think this would, we could streamline the process, make it go a little more quickly, to work more directly with EOR.
Thank you. Manager Loth?
Because this is happening after my term expires, take my answer for what it's worth, but I personally see the value in having a facilitator along with EOR. It just comes down to a budgetary thing and whether or not that additional expense is worth the value that Yanni brings. But I don't think it's an either or situation. I think the stuff that Yanni would help with wouldn't necessarily be angles that EOR might approach certain things with, but it's just about coming to a good solution and a good answer. And obviously these decisions are going to impact the watershed for decades to come. So I think maybe considering the additional expense of having a professional facilitator might be worth considering.
Okay, thank you. Did you
I'm,
share your thoughts?
yeah, I'm agreeing with you also. I just
Okay.
wanted to see. They've been able to do this dozens of times
Mhm.
without a facilitator.
Right,
But they've never dealt with this board.
Yeah.
Right? So there is some value, maybe if we run into issues, to having Yanni called in later on to work through some, otherwise I think you could fall over each other a little bit too.
Mhm.
That's part of
Well,
the risk you take by doing that. I think.
Yeah, I don't think our board is any different than any other board, honestly, and I think that there's some merit in what you've said and what Chris just said, Manager Loth, but I think I think that we have to keep EOR front and center as the decision maker. We don't have any background in that, not on projects this large. And so if our chief engineers at EOR and the lead for this project, I guess, if they feel they need to bring a facilitator in, then we can discuss it at that time. But I really think that we're going to not need that, and we'll trust their experience. So at that time, if you believe that we need that extra support, we'll discuss it at that time. But right now, we made a decision to go with our to go with our engineering firm. I think that's what the majority is saying tonight, so we're going to stay with that concept. And we'll address it if necessary in the future, about bringing someone else in, okay? Good. Thank you for doing that. Showing everybody. Thanks. No, it's important. You know, I'm not able to see all that on my screen, so it's nice to see who's actually here. All right, very good. So, did you have more, Greta?
Nope, that is all. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Madam President, separately, we'll work on, and then you wanted another workshop with, well, we need to approve the contract.
Mhm.
So now that we have this, we could bring that back for action, maybe even on September 11th. I'm not planning to be here for that meeting, but or to take an action on it, and then we could proceed with a workshop some later time, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
Over or
There's,
something.
yeah, there's a lot of questions I think we all have, just starting out so that we have a better understanding of the travel we're going to make over the next couple of months and progress, hopefully. So let's do that. Let's postpone this now until the next meeting. And I think we can manage without you on this one, but.
Yep.
Yeah, if you have any things that you want to leave us with before we act, you can do that through memo. All right, very good. Thank you for the presentation. Yes.
One other question before we go. I'm gonna be gone for that meeting, which is fine, but the only question I have in this big picture is this covered by this year's budget? Or are we looking at spending money that we don't have right now? And
Mhm.
maybe, you know, we're scheduled to be short by $250,000. So is that gonna raise that, or are we gonna still be able to come in under that?
I don't know.
That's a question we should
Yeah.
answer at that meeting. I would have asked it tonight, but
Mhm.
I think that's a good question to ask and make sure the board's comfortable with whatever we see.
I think
No.
that the money for this phase obviously is already budgeted,
Okay,
because that's this year. Unless you say we don't. I mean, we've talked about this already.
I can look.
well, you don't have to answer now.
Yeah.
I just didn't want, I wanna raise the question now because I'm not gonna be there next week,
Right.
so. And, you know, as you know, finances are important to us right now, so we're
Right.
struggling with
Yeah.
trying to,
They're always important to us.
right.
They're always important. But what is the predicted surplus for this year that carries over into next year? Do you have that information at your disposal?
I think
Emily?
Surplus,
250,000 short, I think,
All right,
yeah.
okay.
It was way higher than that, like 450, but we got it down to 250.
Mhm.
And we're still working on reducing. it.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't
We
we
don't
have
do it
that?
now.
Let's have that question answered when
The
we
next week,
meet
yeah.
on the 12th of September, okay?
I agree. Thanks for taking that question.
Sure. Okay, are we done with this topic now? We can move on? Thank you, Greta.
Do you mean the 11th of September? Sorry.
Correct.
Yes, September 11th.
I said Greta, I meant Greta, sorry. One thing I think we just always have to keep aware is that this is an important topic. We spent a lot of time over the last decade really talking about the inadequacies of this building. It's evident every year, it gets, seems to get a little tighter and tighter. So it is an important thing for us to keep in mind. There are a lot of big decisions that have to be made up front on the approach that we're going to take, ownership or continue to lease. And there are opportunities in the district right now with some open spaces that we might even consider remodeling. So it is urgent that we continue on this pathway, but make sure that we have the dollars aligned so that we're not getting ourselves into trouble. Okay, very good. Thank you. Let's move on. The next item is Bush Foundation grant application.
Like president managers, staff and I have been working on the development of a grant application for the Bush Foundation, headquartered in Minnesota. And pretty much outlined here, what we're focusing on. So we'll show it to be another meeting with some of the, both internally with staff, but also with the foundation staff to get a little bit more focused, but right now would be largely on the natural shorelines focus. And well, the district was the first to be involved with the natural shoreline partnerships, and we continue to be, there was a meeting with that today, with the Minnesota Lakes and Rivers Association, the DNR, and now other partners. But there's still continues to be a growing problem, kind of taking one step forward, two steps backwards when it comes to retaining natural shorelines. So that's the focus, but as per our governance manual, there's a requirement that anything over $40,000 requires board approval to proceed.
Can you talk about this a little bit more? I know we've had an introduction at some point in the past, but it's been a while. But the fact that they call it a innovation grant, somewhere I read that. What does that mean? What are they outline all of these grant sources, especially these foundation ones, have very clear outlines of what types of projects they want to fund and how much they're willing to fund. This is a big award at 2.4 million, multi-year grant. So are we restricted to certain things or is it open?
It's quite open, the request is ongoing, and just simply it's to develop, test and spread great ideas. In addition, inspire, equip and connect leaders. But that's sort of the core areas for the foundation.
In
Yeah.
anything, it's not just water, it's not just ecosystems,
Correct.
anything.
Well, I mean, they have some, I think some potential sideboards in terms of their focus, in terms of the communities that they're trying to work with, but in terms of the topic, I don't know if there's really anything we could. We'll send out the link for the foundation, and particularly the page for this community innovation grants and other research initiatives, investments.
So could an education center as part of the building be part of that innovation?
Well, it's potential, but I thought we would try to walk before we run. This is an area that we have the white paper, we have enough information about the DNR shoreline work, or the assessment work that they've done to show that this is a problem. And frankly, if this was to provide money for the district to cover current levy requirements, then some of the other levy money could be used for other things. Historically, they do not fund facilities, but it's not entirely outside the realm of that, but I think our chances are much greater in a program area in developing this.
Okay, so their manifesto for what they want to spend their money on is online, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, Bush Foundation, so we can each go on to that site and find out about it. And the point obviously is that if they do that type of education outreach, that potentially could have some merit for the building. So I think we need to understand a lot more about the background for it.
Well, I
But-
think they're,
Mhm.
Madam President, the district would probably be better positioned to fund the activities, not necessarily the building, but again, if we could
Mhm.
cover separately a bunch of Adam's time and efforts and the
Mhm.
costs associated with our
Well, there's no question.
then that levy dollars
And
would be used
that's
for the facilities.
certainly a direction we want to head. Let's get as much coverage on the programs and projects area as we can.
Mhm.
And so that's great.
Right, because most of our grant dollars have come in for projects
Mhm.
and limited for.
Yeah.
For programs.
Yeah, but I think people are starting to understand that education piece is very important, and if we're going to have change, it has to happen with each individual, and that means outreach, and, so I think that's certainly, the way to go, but what else do they have? So I'll do my own
And there are other foundations as well.
research,
You can-
okay. All right, very good. So what do you need us to do? We need to, recommend action here.
I'll
So-
move to authorize the district administrator to apply to the Bush Foundation for a community innovation grant and execute the grant agreement if awarded.
Is there a second?
I will second that motion.
Manager Baki,
Yes.
is that you? Thank you. Okay, roll call.
All right, Manager Lowe,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. All right, next item under old business, Bone Lake South Property Environmental Assessment.
And president, managers, for a full act, we have, I believe Blaine is,
Blaine is here.
okay, so. We'll let Blaine take it away here, does the board want to make the motion first and then have the discussion presentation?
President Anderson, I will make a motion to accept the environmental site assessment.
Thank you. Is there a
I'll
second?
second. I'll second.
Thank you, Manager Taves. Motion and second. Roll call.
Did we want more discussion?
Oh, is there more discussion?
Nope.
Okay,
All right, Manager Lowe,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
President Anderson.
aye. All right, so is Blaine going to talk about this?
I certainly can.
Thank you.
Madam President and managers, just want to take a minute here to bring you up to speed on the Southern Bone Lake, South Bone Lake wetland property acquisition. This is one aspect of the due diligence needed for the purchase agreement, some contingency items on the property itself. This being the environmental assessment of the property to ensure that we are not purchasing any environmental hazards, Superfund sites, etc. Standard procedure for our land acquisition. We contracted EOR to do an environmental assessment of the area. They looked over the land, site visits, research on the property, historic research, etc. The phase one environmental assessment did not find any issues with the property. There's no environmental hazards that we should be concerned about. And we are basically given the green light from a environmental assessment standpoint to proceed with the acquisition of that particular property. Be happy to answer any questions that folks might have.
Any questions? Any comments from the board? No?
Good news. Glad to see it
Yeah.
moving along.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Blaine.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, the next item, Minnesota watersheds resolutions.
President, managers, I think, council, Altman online here to help assist with navigating the discussion here.
Is he here?
Madam
Yes.
Chair, Madam,
Yes,
um,
go ahead.
the matter's fairly short and sweet. We discussed at the last meeting. Truth in Taxation has a September 30th deadline for levy certification, but there's a residual September 15th date in the watershed law. And there's a mechanism by which Minnesota Watersheds Board will take and approve a motion at its October meeting to be added to the agenda for the annual membership meeting in December for the membership to vote on. And at the last meeting, you asked me to draft a resolution for Minnesota Watersheds Board for a legislative correction to change the watershed law to September 30th, so all the dates will line up. And I used the standard format for the memo and the resolution. And if you read it, you'll see it's pretty straightforward. It's just presented as a correction to avoid any appearance of conflict in the dates.
Mhm. I'm gonna move to approve the proposed resolution as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Manager Lowe,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Thank you, passes unanimously. Next item, mid-season monitoring program update presentation.
That was a management plan again here,
All right,
that just information.
Madam President,
Glenn.
managers, staff and I put together a mid-season monitoring update, YouTube video. Hope you've had a chance to review that. We discussed the results, the preliminary results from our camp monitoring, limited data set there just until June. We shared some lake profile and bottom water data, some information from our diagnostic monitoring, our do-it-yourself or DIY monitoring, as well as our citizen-assisted or CAT monitoring program. And then some information on our operations and maintenance or O&M monitoring, water quality monitoring as well. In general, water quality is similar to last year or actually slightly better. We're seeing right around seasonal trends for most of our lakes, a little bit better water quality than we saw last year, but kind of a similar trend that we saw. We're collecting DIY data from several new subwatersheds around Moody Lake and Shields Lake. And then we've expanded the CAT program a little bit as well to include some direct drainages from the park there in Forest Lake, Lakeside Park. We've got some information on our O&M projects, performance of those projects, and everything is trending nicely, looking good. We're getting good returns from those investments in those projects. They are proving to be very effective. And then we've got some just recommendations at the end about increased monitoring around Shields and Moody to further investigate potential loading in those areas. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have from that presentation.
any comments or questions at this time? No, it's nice to get this kind of mid-session, if you will, or mid-season report. That's one of the reasons we wanted to bring this in-house so that we had more up-to-date information as the season goes on, instead of waiting until April of the next year. So that's been very positive. And I understand the equivocation on not having people take this as the final data for the year. We are going through different seasons each year. So I think it's been great to have that immediacy of understanding how the waters are doing, throughout that season. So I appreciate what you've done with this program and the reporting that you do, keeping us up to date on how our waters are doing. So I appreciate that. I'm sure the other board members do as well.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Any questions?
You all.
Yes, go ahead. Any other comment?
Yeah, Blaine, I had mentioned to you that my last two readings on Forest Lake West was kind of disappointing compared to what I saw in previous years, but then I noticed that the same thing is happening at Comfort Lake. So it's just kind of interesting to see how the lake kind of operate together. I had a question though, one of the things that's different this year, climate wise, is not only the rain, et cetera, that you talked about, and the temperatures. Well, the temperatures were about average, I guess, but we had a severe amount of contamination from forest fires throughout most of the summer. And it's the water, the air quality has been terrible, et cetera. is there any way we could, would there be any value in just checking and see if there's any published information in the literature about how that might affect water quality? We did notice some staining in the lakes. We talked to you about that a couple of weeks ago, especially in Second Lake. That may have been caused by the ash in the, ash in the sky and so forth. But I was wondering if you looked at any literature searches in that respect, and then whether there's any correlation there.
No, that's an interesting comment, and I can certainly do some research and see what I can find out, to see if there's any link between the air quality and the lake water quality as well. Perhaps EURs might have some insight on that. I see Ann just turned her camera on. If you have any information, Ann, you'd be happy to share that at this point, or I can do some research and follow up with you, Manager Schmaltz.
Yeah, I think, we have these big changes like this. It's nice to get a heads up on it before maybe somebody asks the question if the water quality goes down, or if then we're scrambling to find an answer. If we know something's happening and it's in an ongoing situation all summer long, I think it just makes a lot of sense to try to check it out. We don't need a master thesis on it, but just to see if anything else has been done looking at the same issue.
Mhm. Yeah, and that would be important for the rest of the board to get as well, so.
Certainly.
uh,
Yeah, I can definitely take a look and see if I can find any information and share it with you all.
Thanks, Blaine.
Madam President.
Yes,
My question is there any correlation to the weed cutting and the weeds that pile up on the side of the shore and start deteriorating and messing with water quality, increasing the nitrates and messing with the phosphorus? Because that started halfway through the year too.
mhm.
I'm just curious because I'm seeing them pile up and I know that that's gonna have water quality issues.
Okay, well, Mike, do you wanna try this or?
Well, I've been working with the harvesters since 2002.
Sure.
When they stopped it and we started back up again, but the harvester picks up about 70%, 70-80% of the vegetation. But most of it this time of year doesn't affect water quality too much because we're past the higher temperatures. So they're gonna die anyway, right? And as they die later in the year, it doesn't really affect water quality except maybe after the buildup in the bottom. But I think a lot of the stuff that comes loose is not the harvester. There's right now ducks out in front of my yard eating weeds out quite fast. And then all that stuff, they eat the bulbs and that off the bottom of the roots and all that vegetation just right on my shoreline. I mean, there's not a weed harvester around and I got tons of it right now. Plus some other plants, if it's windy and it's shallow, which it's not this year, you can actually blow these plants out of the roots and then they really pile up. About in the maybe 2008 or 9, we had to use a harvester, get it back in the water, just pick up the weeds because people couldn't get their boats from Second Lake off the lake because football field length by football field wide and just had to cut past through there. So I think those two thoughts are something you need to be aware of, and if people ask you questions to be able to respond. Mike, I'm sure you have some thoughts on that too.
Well, some number of years ago, Madam President, managers, so there was a similar question. And we'd have to go back and maybe look at specifics, but the harvester cut, and even over the course of the entire summer, somewhat a surprisingly small percentage of the total mass of plant growth, so it was nothing less than 1%. So then if you're translating that into what's not, I mean, still, it sure adds up, but just again, from what we're doing on the, we've been developing a program where we're trying to assist with more of the near shore area, including the turf, in addition to just the shoreline restoration side, but just on the turf side. What we do know just numerically, what other university and others have studied in terms of how much nutrients are presented, are placed within that area on an acre by acre basis on lawns. That's a much higher number than we're getting runoff. And now, just at the previous meeting or so, we had a presentation from a PhD student from the University of Minnesota talked about the nitrogen.
Right.
So
last time.
right. So that's another, additional piece that's really probably driving some of this, because it's, I should say, it's not, our focus has been on phosphorus, it's not like nutrients. You know, I mean, nutrients are going to be nutrients, are gonna drive this, but it's more, I guess, newer. Research as to how much of an impact it is. So that was very interesting, from our perspective, but we know that certain plants are gonna be driven by nitrogen. Within the water column, just like they are in the terrestrial environment.
Right, I thought I heard about leaves going into the water and that was a problem. And I just was thinking,
Yep.
all the dead plants
Well,
inside can't
yeah, it
possibly
is.
be less
Yeah,
than
right.
leaves, or than the leaves.
Right, it's like the leaves part is like, okay, there's some leaves are gonna go there naturally.
Sure.
But it's when people are wholesale just taking and blowing or cutting all their, that's not natural, right? So that's an, artificial introduction. So same with all the pipes that go in. We estimate that there's something close to 50 different conveyances, that are not natural coming into Forest Lake. So, well, that's all bringing in nutrients as well. Street sweeping has done a great job of reducing that. We have the, couple years of data of how much they've been recovering and taking that to the labs and analyzing it to see, how much that is. So it does all matter, but it's probably more just because it's a nuisance for a lot of residents. It's maybe more visual than it is numeric, if that makes sense.
Manager Love has his hand raised.
Yes.
President
Manager Lowe?
Anderson? Yeah, thank you. This was discussed at the Lake Association meeting we just had. I think when you talk about nutrient loading and plants and all of that, native vegetation, that's all meaningful, but to connect it to the weed harvester might be problematic because there's situations where the weed harvester didn't cut in Lake One, for example, and shores would still be lined with aquatic vegetation. So, empirically speaking, I don't necessarily think that the weed harvester itself is a huge correlation to what shows up on shore. And we may be able to prove that very soon if the Lake Association decides to take a year or two off of actually cutting and seeing what happens. But I suspect that people will still have weeds that show up on shore. And I think Mike had a very good comment. I think it was at the annual meeting about leaves getting into the lake. If we think about how this environment looked 300 years ago, the amount of trees and the amount of leaves going into the lake was how much more than now, just based on the number of trees that were present then versus the ones that have been since removed. So, and we see poorer water quality now than we did then, or suspect based on the cores that have been done. So just some thoughts.
Just one comment that comes to mind. We did have a discussion about the weed cuttings several years ago. And clarified what should be picked up after, by the people cutting. After they've gone through and done that harvesting, and it's, I think it was 5%. They, 5% of what comes out of that cutting process is okay to leave in the lake. It's a small percentage that can be left back. So I think there was some more effort put into picking up what's actually being harvested. And maybe that's what, talking to the people that do the harvesting is to pay more attention to that. Because we were noticing a lot of things coming through the Sunrise, and then ending up down in Comfort too at that time. But maybe just keeping the people that are responsible for that attuned to making sure they're collecting as much of that loose material as they can. That would help, I think. Okay, any other comments? Okay, let's move on. Wow, are we down that far already?
We added D to the second.
Oh, yes, the budget discussion, thank you. The materials.
Yeah, I
Go ahead.
just thought it'd be helpful if we took a little time to talk about some work that's been done already, and then also maybe talk about the timing and how we want to orchestrate these meetings. First of all, maybe Emily, could you just show those two documents that you and staff prepared with Mike's comments and so forth, and did we send these out to everybody or not? I don't think we did we?
Not yet.
Okay,
Okay, do you want to look at the talking points first or the accomplishment summary or also
why don't you do the accomplishments
explanation?
first? Accomplishments first, yeah. And you'll send these out afterwards, right? So they can look at them, and if they have any comments, they can get back to you.
Would you like me to give a summary or we could also, I could kind of
Well, just talk
summarize
about
the
what's
accomplishment.
just talk about what's in each section. You don't have to go through all the detail. I just want to get a feel for what we're doing, and if this isn't the right approach, that's what's happening.
Oh,
I
I
just took
see.
it apart.
Okay.
Well, Steve, I wonder if it would be helpful before diving into the materials themselves, if I went over the outreach plan before getting into the actual materials. That
That's
sounds like
fine.
an okay approach? Okay. So this memo did not go out. Mike and Steve were having some more conversations, but you know, a version of the budget process timeline, the timetable, and the recommended outreach plan went out twice. So we're kind of looking at the third iteration now. We sent the first one out as part of a budget packet, workshop packet, and then updated it a little bit, and then posted the other one in the August 14th regular board meeting. The board then met on the 20th and set the public hearing notice and also the expense amount and the levy range to post in the public hearing. And so that public hearing notice has since gone out. And that's the bare minimum as far as outreach is concerned, is we have to have that legal notice in the papers. And so that's running today and then next Thursday. In addition to that, the board may consider doing additional outreach, public outreach, just to be, transparent and to get the information out there. And so what Adam had put together was a few things. And so I'm going to zoom in here. So the three original documents in Adam's outreach plan were the accomplishment summary, which I showed earlier, the budget explanation sheet, which we've seen a version of in the past. So just updating that, it's a 2-pager. And developing some internal talking points so that, the district has its liaisons when people have questions about the budget, they know who to go to, and those people are aligned on what the talking points are and the answers to anticipated questions. And so we've developed those three. There was also a suggestion along the way to publish, in addition to the legal hearing notice, a newspaper article kind of talking more about the district's accomplishments and things like that. So several things have been developed. I will also note that there's obviously the public hearing presentation that we always do. I've started working on those PowerPoint slides, and we're working on materials for the state of the watershed as well, so that'll factor in. But we have kind of this slate of materials. Each is a little bit different. Each could serve a different purpose. They can be used in different ways. And we would just ultimately, I can go through each of them, but we would ultimately look for the board to be aligned on how those are used and what is our approach to outreach with respect to the budget and levy. So the list of materials here is an updated timetable. The timetable might look familiar. Like I said, it's been distributed a couple times, but we've made some updates. And so we might consider submitting the newspaper article to the local papers. This timeline includes RSVP deadlines and dates of upcoming district events. Ultimately having the budget public hearing on September 25th, certifying the levy no later than September 30th. And then, like we do every year, the at the December 18th regular board meeting, the district will offer another public comment opportunity. This is different from the public hearing, but just an opportunity at the public meeting for people to comment on the budget. And then no later than December 26th, the board may reduce the certified levy, but otherwise no action is needed if you don't wish to change the levy. So I want to just pause there on like the process and see if there are comments or questions regarding, process and timeline before I get into specific documents themselves.
You made reference to having this material passed out at previous workshops on the budget. I don't remember seeing any of this.
The outreach plan and timetable were emailed out.
Pardon me?
The outreach plan and timetable were emailed out on August 8th and then posted in the regular board meeting packet on August 14th. But they've changed since then, given the different discussions that have happened. So this right here has not yet gone out, but earlier iterations have. But the documents themselves have not. And so if the board wants to really be involved in the detailed review of the documents themselves and providing comments and things like that, we can get into those.
Well,
I think the strategy has to be worked out and we've got part of it done, but not all of it. So I think that's something we want to spend a little time talking about today. One of the things we had talked about is you suggested sending out a newspaper article on September 5th to kind of set up and encourage people to come to the 25th meeting. And I don't know, we should talk about that. I personally think that we should probably not do that and just have the announcement. Because I think the first meeting we have on September 25th is kind of an introduction meeting. And the people that come are going to be interested. I think we should do our normal presentation about what we've accomplished. And then if there are questions about the budget or any increase or the size of the budget, and there's those tough details that we have to get through, I would suspect we not take a lot of time. That's a regular board meeting that we encourage people then, and we can give them information at the meeting that they can read, but encourage them to come to one of the two meetings that we're going to have in October and November to have a thorough discussion about the budget and the levy at that point in time. So that we're not tying up the regular 25th meeting with a lengthy discussion. It also gives us a chance then to launch our PR program and tell our story out more aggressively than we've been able to do at this point in time. So that's one thought we have had. Other managers have thoughts on this? And you've been through this with the Willow Point deal with Jackie, so you have some experience in this too.
Yeah, I'm still befuddled that I didn't see anything about any communication plan on the dates that were provided, August 8th and the 14th. So this is all news to me. But maybe
Well, there's all kinds of backup materials. I mean, it took me a couple of hours to go through all this, but a lot of it's already incorporated in documents, but there's a lot of support the staff's brought together, facts and that can be picked and choose and used as you want.
Well, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
I haven't seen that,
Right.
okay, up until now. So I don't know about the other board members, maybe they got their emails and all of that. There's a certain amount of information that we have every year for the budget. And so if this is new, then we need to certainly be part of it. You know, the board members are going to be the ones that are being asked about these questions on the budget all the time. And so we have to know what material is being presented, how it's being presented, and to have input on that development. But again, I did see a preliminary, I guess, notice for the budget that included a lot of detail, I think an article actually. And that wasn't appropriate to be sent out with the budget levy notice, so I don't think that went out, did it?
No, we should make that decision now because if we drive people to come to the meeting without giving them a lot of information, you're just asking for problems. So we should invite them to the meeting, and then when they're there, give them a lot of information, and plus take head to them and ask them to come to the next two meetings. And at that point, then we'll be doing a lot of articles in the press and that to get them educated and so forth. It's kind of the way I think we want to control it. We don't want to lose control of the process or the amount of information that's going out. So if it goes out to, we get too many people coming to that first meeting with no background, we're gonna have, as we did before, a mob to deal with.
I don't think that's what's gonna happen.
I don't think it's gonna happen either.
I don't think so. And operating out of fear isn't a good place to
No.
be. Yes. Mr.
Vice President,
Administrator.
right, I talked to Treasurer Smalton, I think, you know, I'm in alignment with his thinking in terms of that approach. I mean, we've had a good process. We know that from a transparency standpoint, all of our meetings are recorded and posted. And you know, we've, in comparison to some of our peers, which do not do that, and we've also provided everything to our Citizen Advisory Committee members, and people can join all these meetings. So there's plenty of information. My focus really, I feel like we would want to focus on the accomplishments, right? And then what we're planning to do with the money that we're asking from the taxpayers. So that is, in terms of any material that we develop, that would be the focus. Certainly, we have the public, the notice and materials. They're gonna go out for the hearing itself, and then Manager Smalton can then present, have more information there. And then just, well, we typically do a fair amount of analysis, a lot of analysis in terms of what the impact is and such, and that's presented to the board as well. So I feel like we're in a good position to answer any questions.
And if there's a lot of detail that comes up about the levy and why it's, if it's too high and all this kind of stuff, then they have a second presentation ready that we can actually go out and answer the checking questions that they might ask. And that's what Emily has prepared with the second document that we're not gonna pass out, but she'll send to you. But this is these two documents, one has to do with the tax impact on the levy, on the public, and the other one has to do the accomplishments that we did, and Mike made some changes on that. So it's a nice big story, and you can actually build a presentation around each of those if you need to be, but.
Well, again, board, speak up, because I don't know if you got those prior notices of this outreach program. I did not. And so I'm looking at this for the first time.
I don't think they're talking about the actual accomplishment list. It's the outreach plan that they're talking about.
Just the outreach plan. The documents have not been distributed, so,
Well,
That's
I don't have the outline for the plan. That's what I'm talking about.
it's been revised. and
August 8th and 14th, I believe it was.
There were initial drafts in there, but the board was properly focused on completing the budget discussion, the budget levy discussions. And then by the time we get to those at the end of the meetings, and we didn't take it up. So,
Well, I'm asking the board members if you received those preliminary documents so that you knew that there was a campaign afoot to address issues with the budget.
I do.
I'm only aware of what was available in the board packet.
Okay,
Well, in the meetings, we've discussed it several times and then made additions and corrections and changes and then back to rewriting on it. So it's not a new topic. I'd love to see that graphic piece of accomplishments. I'm looking forward to that when it comes out.
and that's not what we have here today, correct?
Yeah, you have two of those.
Yeah.
And the third thing, Emily, why don't you put up on the screen those, you don't have to go through it, but just show the checking questions you would ask, and then you would you and Adam would prepare a start of a presentation to answer those questions. Maybe you can zoom in on that a little bit bigger so they can see it. Okay. So why don't you go through this? Go ahead.
Okay. So yes, one of the items, and this would be more of an internal item that people would have on hand is some talking points to be familiar with and some data to be able to pull from, and just organized by potential questions we may receive, you know, why considering a levy increase at this time, you know, talking about the past accomplishments, and that's obviously a very big part of the materials that have been produced so far, drafted, I should say. You know, obviously the accomplishments are very great, and we are very close to the water quality goals that we set. You know, why not slow down and reduce the levy and reduce the budget? You know, what work still needs to be done, climate resiliency and whatnot. And then talking about grants and other revenues and our efforts there to, you know, yes, there is a proposed levy increase. And we are also, you know, applying for more grants than ever. We're looking at increasing permit revenues, you know, leveraging partnerships, things like that. And then obviously the tax impacts are available as well.
So that's the beginning of a presentation, and then, you know, it's just starting right now, so basically, yeah.
Okay,
So we're agreed, we're not gonna send anything out before on the fifth then, so, just the notice, is that correct, Mike?
It's already out.
Your notice is out, but not the letter, we're not gonna send an additional letter out, right?
Correct, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing for discussion, if we want for that accomplishments piece, if that's gonna be a handout, or if we're gonna just post it to social media prior to that.
Well, I think we have to agree on the strategy in terms of how we're gonna present this, and so I've seen some staff suggest that we're gonna increase the levy because we're not gonna be able to get more grants in the future, and therefore we're gonna increase the levy significantly in the future.
but that's not a true statement.
I agree. So I think, so we need to come as a board agreement on the strategy. I would like to suggest the following, which is I think what actually happened. You know, we decided a while back that the grants were eventually gonna go away, so we wanted to accelerate our water quality programs as quickly as we could. In order to do that, we had to take out loans to move ahead and keep going. And so the results speak for themselves. We've got a lot of tremendous progress we made in water quality. Now we have to pay off some of those loans. So in doing that, we're gonna have to slow down. We're gonna have to increase the levy to pay for those loans. But we're also gonna have to maybe slow down some of our aggressiveness that we've had in the past, depending on how things turn out. And so those would be the key messages I think we wanna have, and say that everybody, you know, appreciates good, clean water. We've been able to accomplish that, so they're enjoying these benefits now rather than, it's also been done 15 or 20 years earlier. So they're enjoying the benefits now of the clarity and the cleaner water. Now, as we pay those off, they have the ability to enjoy what we've been able to accomplish.
Well, that's not a true statement, though. You know, the grants were not going to go away. They're changing. They're changing how they're happening, but there's new grants all the time.
Right.
All the time. And in my opinion, we fell behind on that push to get the grants and to pursue all the grants like we're doing now. I mean, it's pretty clear that we've had a busy year in doing research and getting grants together that can serve our purposes. But the reality is, we didn't budget what we needed to budget to cover our activities. That's really true. And we didn't budget to pay back those loans that we took. That was a conscious decision to
Correct.
use that program. That's very, very helpful. But when it came time to start building our payback fund, we didn't do it. So that's the absolute truth. And anything else is not.
Well,
In my
we're
opinion,
saying the
and so
same
we
thing by
need to say-
increasing the levy now. We should have done it earlier. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So
but
we're
don't-
catching
but
up now.
Don't use the fact that grants were changing or going away. That's not the truth.
Well, I think the grants are shifting towards the one watershed, one plan, and we had to get done what we had to get done. And we wouldn't have been able to do that if we had just, had we increased our levy, we would have gotten some money back, but not enough to pay for everything. The other thing is that we were over budget on a large project, and
Well, that's.
we also had to pay for all the diagnostic monitoring, which was not covered by Bowser. So that's another factor. And the fact we didn't increase our levy fast enough the last 3 years is another factor. And I think that's all we can talk about that in the chart if we have to get into that kind
But
of detail.
stick to the facts, though.
Right.
Don't make up something as cover. It wasn't, it was very simple what happened. So as long as we're telling the truth, I'm okay with it, but don't make up stories.
Okay.
Yes,
Madam President, managers, I think part of the story, for me is I just like to focus on the glass being half full portion. And for the grants, they are changing, but we knew 10 years ago that the Bowser was moving to a one watershed, one plan approach versus a competitive. So we've been the most successful. So Bowser staff itself has said, while we comprise something like 0.6% of the land area, we've received over 6% of the total competitive clean water fund grants. So we've been in the #1 spot for the last 10+ years. So that's been able to compress the timeline in terms of moving the needle in terms of improving the water quality. So there's a host of things that have occurred, and absolutely, I would still very
And
much
that's
like to.
In the document.
Right, but go to Bowser and try to, once again, make the case that, the grant, the monies that they give for the SWA computer analysis, it should be expanded out to the work that the district has done in terms of diagnostic monitoring. So if that's one area that's never been covered, and then so the district has done it through the levy dollars. So with some additional grants from NPCA and the 319 money that's come in as well. But so there's been a host of reasons, but right, the reality is that the community gets to enjoy a much cleaner, the water resources as a whole are much better than they were a decade ago. And certainly some of them are considerably just the Shields and Moody where it was. I remember Manager Taves telling me prior to being on the board and as a volunteer that 10 years ago that sometimes he could smell the manure on the lake as it was coming in from upstream. So and we've rectified some of those major issues, which have had a cumulative impact, as we know, through the flow system of the entire Bone Lake. And
you don't have to sell me.
right, but I mean,
I've been here all along and seen this progress. That's not the issue tonight. That
right,
is not the issue.
I just want to make sure we agree on the approach we're taking and that we're consistent with it and we don't focus on the negative about a 23% increase unless we have to talk about that later on.
We've had 23% increases before and we've survived. There hasn't been a peep about it. So I don't think that we need to make a calamity when there isn't a calamity out there.
I think you need to be prepared to explain it though.
Well, of course you do.
Okay.
Just like every year. There's nothing different about what we're doing here, except that we're being aggressive on making sure that every rock has been overturned to get the message out to the public. So I think that we need to do our standard things that we've always done. We have opportunities, as you've suggested, for people at our meetings to come and talk about our regular meetings. And we have a public meeting, one public meeting that we have always had for the budgets, and that's happening in September on the 25th. But all of this other activity, again, I don't have that outline that was presented, so I'll have to download that somewhere, but
Well, that's why I brought it up because I know that everybody wasn't engaged in this process. So that's why I thought we'd
But we
bring it up at
should have
this
been.
meeting. Huh?
we should have been engaged in this process. So that's the point,
You got the emails and that, so I mean,
not to my knowledge.
Okay.
So let's do our normal course of action, prepared with the details that we need for this particular budget. And then let's, as a board, decide how we want to use that information, how we want to outreach to the public, apart from what we normally do. That's what we're talking about. all of this has to be loaded on our websites. That's one of our chief methods of getting information out to the public. So we certainly need to do that. And that's where they can go and look at the budget, look at the details, look at the history. There's nothing wrong with that. So we should do that, but do we need to spend, do we need to have this all port press? You know, on getting information out to everyone, or give them in the normal channels that
I
we
think
always.
the all court press is gonna happen after the September 25th meeting.
Mhm.
I would like to
Then-
ask that these 3 documents be sent out to us board members so we can look at these and move on to some more productive topics here.
Right, thank you.
Well, this is productive. So we need to,
It's just coming up
We need to
fast. I
get-
just wanna make sure the board's aligned, so we don't, September 25th is gonna be here in a couple of weeks, so.
so what?
So
We'll
that's
continue-
fine. We'll send out what we have, what's been done
Yeah.
up to this point, and then the board can react to that.
Okay,
It would be great.
and that'll happen early next week.
Send out what we've got now.
Okay.
I mean, just those 3 documents
All right.
as a start.
Okay, and then any outlines that you have as well, make sure that we have all of that material as well. So if there's plans to do certain
can
things and
resend it
so
out
on,
to you.
yeah.
Emily, would you resend all that out again?
Yep, can do.
And then those 3 the 2 documents we have here, and then the 3rd document with the checking questions. I think those 3 documents captures all the information staff has put together. And it'll give the board a good perspective of, which direction we're going, and we can then get some additional input.
Yes, the board should make the final decision on what's going to happen.
Right.
Okay, very good. We'll move on. Next item is report of staff, starting with the administrator.
Madam President, managers, is probably the biggest thing is just today that, myself and staff, Emily and Blaine presented 2 different requests for the Gold Star Stamps out to Heritage Fund, committee. And one was on the green belt for, project area. And the other was on phase 2 for the Bone Lake South property. So which is that, and the board reviewed earlier, in terms of that, that's Blaine's imagining that, so that's been going well. Otherwise, I know Manager Anderson, you had communicated here today about maybe highlighting a few items in the programs and project areas.
Yes, I contacted Mike to put the 3,000 and 5,000 series comments that he had in his administrative report onto a memo that we could have just had in addition to this report, of course. But there is so much. I don't know if you've all had a chance to actually read through it all, but there is so much activity that's been going on here in the last month. Things are, new things are happening, old things are wrapping up, but it's very exciting in a particular area, and that is the grants. We heard about one tonight that's in $1 million, $2 million range that we're pursuing. There is just, comment after comment about different activities the staff is doing in all of our areas. But it's so detailed that in just about all of those 3,000 areas that I was afraid they might get missed. And so I still would like him to do that memo and attach it to the minutes, so that when the public is looking at this, it's not buried in this report, it's by itself. And so it's showing just this tremendous amount of activity, more than we've seen in a long time. And that's very exciting. One in particular that, of course, I drew in on when we had our public meetings in the early months of the year, January, February, somewhere in there, on the flood resiliency. We had a probably a neighborhood of folks that came to the public meeting complaining about flooding, what they considered to be excess flooding. Their houses all backed up to the Bixby Park wetland project, and so we asked the board, excuse me, we asked EOR to look into that and do some research for them, and there is a comment in here about what their discovery was. So I'm hoping that we can take that information and make sure that neighborhood gets that info. I know we've had neighborhood meetings in the past about projects and so on, but it would be nice, I think, before the weather changes too much, that we have a neighborhood gathering and then can tell them what the findings were. At least they've got the info. It may not be what they want to hear, but at least they've got the information, and they show that we are closing out their requests with actual data, and we did spend some time researching it. I think that's a good public relations practice to have in place, so that people can come to us, they can tell us what their concerns are, their problems are, and they'll be shown that we take them seriously and give them the facts, the facts. So anyway, I was very impressed with that, this report, this time, and I just wanted to make sure that it doesn't get buried. And I would ask that he do that single memo format that we have. And would attach that to the board notes, or excuse me, the board minutes as a separate document in addition to his administrative report. Okay, no objection? Yes?
Madam President, just wanted, the managers just wanted to note that the administrative report is an aggregation of all the staff's work.
Mhm.
And I know Blaine has already met with those residents out there previously, and we'll do another engagement with them, so.
Well, make sure the board knows, so that if any board member wants to go over and be part of that with the public, I always think that's a good thing.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that was my comment on the report. Anybody else? No? All right. Let's go on to Emmons and Olivier.
Good evening, Madam President and managers. I have a couple additional updates in addition to what has already been discussed from EOR's activities. We sent the 60% plans for the Heath Avenue iron enhanced sand filter to the district, and we've also submitted the draft bid package for legal review. We also are completing our final modeling summary to send with the 60% plans to the city for review as well. We also submitted an abstract to present the results of the County Road 50 iron enhanced sand filter for consideration of a presentation at the Minnesota Watersheds annual conference this December. That will be Kyle and Mike Kinney presenting that. We also are just about a month away from our second alum treatment on Forest Lake. So we're in communication with the applicator, and everything is looking good. And that's our report. Any questions?
Nope. Doesn't appear so. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, so next is a report of the treasurer.
District Attorney first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Smith Partners.
I have nothing to report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Report of the treasurer.
So, district income was $1,008,179.46. And of that amount, 932,000 approximately was from our levy settlements, which came in early July. And plus we got an additional 65,000 in grant dollars, which is a good month. And then expenses, total expenses for the month are $165,321.93. And the bank transfer will be $363,000. So I'd like to ask the board to approve the treasurer's report and to approve paying of the bills in the transfer, as I mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we accept the treasurer's report and pay the bills.
Thank you. Second?
I will second that motion.
Thank you. Roll call?
All right, Manager Lowe,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Report of officers and managers. So let's start with Doug Taves, Manager Taves.
Nothing to report, just wondering if you need me to sign checks tomorrow.
No, I'm gonna be doing that tonight.
And I'll be doing it tomorrow morning.
Okay, all
We're
right.
good, Doug, thanks.
Manager Loth, anything from you?
I also have nothing to report.
Thank you. Manager Baki.
As was mentioned earlier about the Bone Lake Boat Tour, we had a wonderful turnout of over 30 people. I'd like to thank Managers Taves and Anderson for attending. And we also had our Scandia Mayor there, the Commissioner Fran Myron, and a number of other folks from around the lake and outside the perimeter of the lake as well. So again, this was an excellent example of education and outreach at its best in demonstrating what our best practices for lake restoration and preservation. I want to thank Patty Ray for hosting. Patty Ray has been a long-time resident of Bone Lake and a strong supporter, a past president of our association. Adam Helm did a wonderful job of organizing this event, and Aiden Reed emceed spectacularly once again, highlighting those areas of the lake that really model best practices. So when we can interact face-to-face with folks, I think that is our best outreach. And we can really build momentum for the work that we're doing when people can see firsthand and talk to our excellent staff. I mean, our staff are so personable, so knowledgeable, but they really know how to relate and explain things in a very understandable way. So thanks again to all the staff for their good work on the tour.
Yes, I just want to second everything he just said. It was great. I think also the Bone Lake Association does a really good job of keeping their members engaged. And so that's exciting to see as well. Okay. What about you, Manager Small?
Nothing to report.
Okay, nothing for me. All right, is there a summary and approval of board direction?
Madam Chair, managers, what I have is the following. Mr. Eichner will look for information on the effects of fire materials on water quality, otherwise known as ash, I guess. And staff will send out the budget documents and outlines to the managers. Manager Anderson, President Anderson asked that staff include the excerpt, the 3,000 and 5,000 lines from the administrator's report as a standalone memo to accompany the minutes. And then President Anderson asked that staff arrange a neighborhood gathering for the Bixby Park folks to review the district's review of their issues and findings.
Sounds good to me. Anyone else have anything to add to that? No? All right, thank you. And anything else? Last chance. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you, Manager Flocky. Thanks, Manager Loth.
Manager Lowe,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz.
Aye.
Manager Baki.
Aye.
Manager Taves.
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye.
Hey,
Good
good
night.
meeting, everybody. Good night.
8:05. Good night.
Good night.